Now, I don't pretend to know why Donald Trump has been silent, but people like Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell, whom you heard on Monday night, are not stupid. Sidney Powell is one of the leading appellate lawyers in America. Let me just have a stab at what they might be doing. What has not received any publicity is that on September 12, 2018, President Trump signed into existence an executive order. You can check it out for yourself at whitehouse.gov. It's entitled, and I quote, Executive Order on Imposing Certain Sanctions in the Event of Foreign Interference in a United States Election, unquote. In that executive order, which no one seems to have covered since the day it was signed, President Trump declares a national emergency that is still in play. This election was conducted under a state of emergency, and it asserts that people and organisations located outside the United States are known to be able to, quote, interfere in or undermine public confidence in United States elections, including through the unauthorised accessing of election and campaign infrastructure, unquote. Now, I envisage it could be asserted that outfits like CNN and the New York Times could be caught up under this emergency declaration of foreign interference in US elections, aided by complicit cooperation on US soil. Why is this relevant? Well, again, listen to what Sidney Powell said on Monday.
Attorney Sidney Powell is leading the charge against Dominion, and she says she has enough evidence of fraud to launch a massive criminal investigation. Sidney, thanks very much for being here. We appreciate your time this morning. I want to get right into it. We just heard about the software made by Smartmatic from Rudy, and I want to get your take on what you and I spoke about just a few minutes ago, and that is a gentleman named Peter Neffenger. Tell me how he fits into all of this.
Yes, well, he is listed as its former Admiral Peter Neffenger, or retired Admiral Peter Neffenger. He is president and on the board of directors of Smartmatic. And it just so happens he's on Mr. Biden's presidential transition team that's going to be non-existent because we're fixing to overturn the results of the election in multiple states. And President Trump won by not just hundreds of thousands of votes, but by millions of votes that were shifted by this software that was designed expressly for that purpose. We have sworn witness testimony of why the software was designed. It was designed to rig elections. He was fully briefed on it. He saw it happen in other countries. It was exported internationally for profit by the people that are behind Smartmatic and Dominion. They did this on purpose. It was calculated. They've done it before. We have evidence from 2016 in California. We have so much evidence, I feel like it's coming in through a fire hose.
Wow. So, Sidney, you feel that you will be able to prove this. Do you have the software in your possession? Do you have the hardware in your possession? How will you prove this, Sidney?
Well, I've got lots of ways to prove it, Maria, but I'm not going to tell on national TV what all we have. I just can't do that.
Okay, but you have a small time frame here. The elections are supposed to be certified in early December. Do you believe that you can present this to the courts and be successful within this just couple of weeks?
Well, let me put it this way. First of all, I never say anything I can't prove. Secondly, the evidence is coming in so fast I can't even process it all. Millions of Americans have written, I would say by now, definitely hundreds of thousands have stepped forward with their different experiences of voter fraud. But this is a massive election fraud, and I'm very concerned it involved not only Dominion and its Smartmatic software, but that the software essentially was used by other election machines also. It's the software that was the problem. Even their own manual explains how votes can be wiped away. They can it's like drag and drop Trump votes to a separate folder and then delete that folder. It's absolutely brazen how people bought this system and why they bought this system. In fact, every state that bought Dominion for sure should have a criminal investigation, or at least a serious investigation of the officers in the states who bought the software. We've even got evidence of some kickbacks, essentially.
Before we went to the break, we talked about, you said that there may have been kickbacks to some people who accepted the Dominion software. Tell me what you mean.
Well, I mean, we are collecting evidence now from various whistleblowers that are aware of substantial sums of money being given to family members of state officials who bought this software. I mean, we're talking about $100 million packages for new voting machines suddenly in multiple states.
Next here at CBS 17, we are your local election headquarters. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg and his wife say they are donating $300 million to voter integrity projects, the money going to nonprofit groups working to support voters ahead of the November elections. One group, the Center for Tech and Civic Life, helps hire and train poll workers. The other provides voters with accurate information about registration, vote by mail, early voting, voting locations, and hours. Zuckerberg has been criticized over Facebook's perceived lack of preparedness for the 2020 election. And sticking on the theme of election integrity, Old Navy will pay employees who volunteer at the polls on Election Day. The workers get the money even if they weren't scheduled to work on the 3rd. The employees will also be paid by the local election board. Very interesting.
And benefits ranging from financial benefits for family members to sort of what I would call election insurance, because they know that they can win the election if they are using that software. It's really an insidious, corrupt system, and I can't tell you how livid I am with our government for not paying attention to complaints even brought by Democrats, Carolyn Maloney, Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar, over the last several years in written letters with expert reports and some documentation of how corrupt this software is, and nobody in our government has paid any attention to it, which makes me wonder how much the CIA has used it for its own benefit in different places, and why Gina Haspel is still there in the CIA is beyond my comprehension. She should be fired immediately.
Which governor or which government official accepted hundreds of millions of dollars in benefits for their family as they took on this software?
If I said hundreds of millions of dollars there, I misspoke. I don't know the exact amount of money yet. We are still collecting the evidence on that, but it's more than one.
Okay, so you can't say who you believe took kickbacks. What is the CIA's role? Why do you think Gina Haspel should be fired immediately? You're saying that the CIA is behind the Dominion or Smartmatic voting software as well?
Well, the CIA and the FBI and other government organizations have received multiple reports of wrongdoing and failures and vulnerabilities in this company's product. Their own manual, if you sat down and read it, would explain how and why no honest person would use this system. And it's not just Dominion. There are other companies in the voting machine business in this country, too, that may very well and are likely using the same software. We've detected voting irregularities that are inexplicable and align with these problems in other states that think they have valid systems. But the people who bought the Dominion system for sure knew exactly what they were getting. It should never have been installed anywhere. And we are going to show the public exactly how rotten the entire state is.
Now, I have spoken with a few whistleblowers myself this weekend, and one source who is an IT specialist told me that he knows the software and specifically advised people in Texas, officials in Texas, not to use it. And yet he was overruled. he said that there was an unusual patch that was put into the software while it was live, and it's highly unusual to put a patch in there. Is that what you're referring to? Tell me how it's done and how these back doors work.
Okay, that's part of it. They can stick a thumb drive in the machine or upload software to it, even from the internet. They can do it from Germany or Venezuela even. They can remote access anything. They can watch votes in real time. They can shift votes in real time. We've identified mathematically the exact algorithm they used and plan to use from the beginning to modify the votes in this case to make sure Biden won. That's why he said he didn't need your votes now. He would need you later. He was right. I mean, in his demented state, he had no filter, and he was speaking the truth more than once, including when he said he had the largest voter fraud organization ever. Well, it's massive election fraud. It's going to undo the entire election. And they can do anything they want with the votes. They can have the machines not read the signature. They can have the machines not read the down ballot. They can make the machines read and catalog only the Biden votes. It's like drag and drop whatever you want, wherever you want, upload votes. Yeah. In fact, we've got math in Michigan and Pennsylvania, I think it is, that all of a sudden hundreds of thousands of votes at a 67% ratio for Biden, 23% for Trump, were uploaded multiple times into the system.
And Sydney, you say you have an affidavit from someone who knows how this system works and was there with the planning of it. You believe you can prove this in court?
Oh yes, we have essentially a sworn statement from a witness who knew exactly how it worked from the beginning, why it was designed to work that way, and saw when things started shutting down and they started, stopped counting the votes here, that was the same play that had worked in other countries.
Now note that she mentioned Dominion. This is the point. It's a Canadian company, foreign-owned, which under the presidential order makes Dominion election theft a foreign interference issue. That's the software that Sidney Powell's talking about. Earlier in that interview, Sidney Powell indicated that many states had been advised against using Dominion voting systems. Another voting company is Citl. It's operated in Spain. I might add it filed for bankruptcy in May and was declared bankrupt in June. You've heard Sidney Powell talk about so much voter fraud, it was like coming out of a fire hose. Experts are asking why the sensitive job of counting votes was outsourced to a foreign company. And how could a bankrupt Spanish company count American votes in Spain? There has to be a reason why the chairman of the Federal Electoral Commission, Trey Traynor, has said that even if observers were not permitted to watch what we'd call scrutineers, the election is, his word, illegitimate. Now, he's speaking specifically about Pennsylvania, which leads to the further question, why weren't they allowed to observe? But the Trump executive order gives the American Department of Justice power to seize all assets of entities that have, quote, directly or indirectly engaged in, sponsored, concealed, or otherwise been complicit in foreign interference in a United States election, unquote. Now, remember, Sidney Powell is saying that this was software designed to rig elections, her words, on purpose, her words, calculated, her word. And she was asked, could she prove this? To which she replied,
well, let me put it this way. First of all, I never say anything I can't prove.
Wonderful. I never say anything I can't prove. That's one of America's leading appellate lawyers. The Trump executive order about rigging elections, which he signed into existence on September 12, 2018, means clearly that the net can be cast very wide. And that if what Donald Trump has called big tech and the fake news media were up to something, then I have no doubt this is what the Trump team are about. Software systems located in Canada and Spain, Sidney Powell says, quote, designed to rig elections on purpose and calculated. Further suggestions are being made that data was offshored to servers located in Germany and possibly Serbia, foreign countries. That doesn't even include China or Venezuela. The allegations which have to be proven are that these foreign entities had roles in running influence operations to produce an election outcome in favour of Mr Biden. I suspect the Trump team is in the process of gathering irrefutable evidence of criminal collusion. Under the executive order of 2018, the government, still headed by Trump, has the power to arrest and seize the assets of any organisation or individual who attempted to alter the result of the 2020 election. Now, I've been saying for some time, it'd be a brave person who is prepared to bet even now against Donald Trump. What do you think? Email me from America, alan@skynews.com.au, or the text line 0414 000 848. And remember, you can listen live on the iHeart Radio app.
Donald Trump has made the rigged system a centerpiece in his campaign, and now there are new concerns after a report showing that 16 U.S. states, 16 of them, have used voting machines tied to leftist billionaire George Soros in the past. Just how concerned should we be? For a moment, let's go to the former Lieutenant Governor of New York, Betsy McCoy. Betsy, apparently a significant number of states will be controlled, voting machines in 16 states controlled by a company tied directly to George Soros and his personal quest for open borders.
That's right. This really bears investigating because Smartmatic, this UK company, one of the top guns there, Lord Malik Brown, is very involved with George Soros's left-wing globalist enterprises, many of which are trying to tilt elections in Europe and in the United States. And Smartmatic bought a company in California. We can go on with all the details, but we need more investigation of this.
Absolutely. Here's a U.S. diplomatic cable on the Smartmatic machines. It says this: the Smartmatic machines used in Venezuela are widely suspected of, though never proven conclusively, to be susceptible to fraud. One study found that the machines contacted the server before printing the results, providing the opportunity, at least, to change the results and defeat the rudimentary checks set up by the International Observation Mission.
That's right. We've got to look into this. But by the way, there's already an airtight case against Soros trying to tilt this election, steal this election using his money. He's very close to Hillary Clinton. He is pouring millions of dollars into third-party organizations like a super PAC called Priorities USA. And those groups are performing dirty tricks as the election approaches at the direct command of the Clinton campaign. That's against the law. So here's a complaint filed with the Federal Election Commission last Friday, outlining what George Soros's group and others are doing, violating the law. They're using money, for example, to pay, this is so pathetic, mentally ill people and homeless people to show up at Trump events, cause violence. They're handing them homemade looking signs that say Trump is a racist. It's the same kind of dirty tricks George Soros used 2 years ago in the European parliamentary elections. We've seen this playbook before.
Okay, so you've got these groups that are doing the dirty tricks, plus you've got the possibility of voting machines in 16 different states. What do you make of that?
It's very disturbing. That, along with the media complicity, we know the New York Times has come out and directly disavowed any journalistic standards. They say, we're not going to be fair. We are taking down Donald Trump because, in our view, he's a demagogue. Never mind that the voters have the choice.
Well, that's Donald Trump's point. He says the system is rigged.